Hi, it's Kristen Eykel, and I have the great pleasure to be here in Italy at the Science and Non-Duality Conference 2018 at this beautiful castle just outside Orvieto in Italy. And this combination of teachers from literally all over the world, I think I've met teachers from France, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, England, like all over the place, is all converging for this week of this very high-level conversation about where our consciousness, our awareness, our spirituality, our thoughts, and our science are all converging to cause this new level of understanding. Who are we in the world? How does what we think influence what happens around us? How do we influence the whole social fabric? How does this impact me as a human, as an individual within the collective? And so I find this conversation fascinating and very informative. It helps me to formulate what I'm then going to be able to teach and share with you, because I like to be inspired by these fantastic teachers as well. So it definitely comes within me and it churns within, and then it offers something else back in the conversation. One of the things I've been most interested in, and I'm still very interested in, is this idea that the world doesn't just exist outside of us, and that we are a player on the stage of it. And I think that's kind of the concept that we've all had coming into our existence, right? That the world already exists, you fit into it as a player, wearing a costume and living in a culture and having a certain language and a certain background, but that the world is already happening and you're observing it or interacting with it in a small point. And if that's the case, so what? How does one person matter? What's the point of it? What's the purpose of you even being here if this whole world already exists and you're just stepping into it? And I can understand how that would be kind of a depressing thought for a lot of people. Once you die and then this play goes on, what mark have you left? What's been the futility of a life? At the other side, there's this conversation and the belief that I'm generating within myself, which is that the world is not an object. It's not just a construct that exists in and of itself, like set pieces on the wall, but that these pieces, the stone, the floor, the walls, my clothing, this body, are all energetic components of a greater whole. And that we as individuals in this creative whole are part of what is creating the world around us. That we have this responsibility within us, we have this generation of idea within us that literally creates our experience, so that our thoughts influence the matter, our feelings, our thoughts, our inspiration definitely causes this brainwave of this frequency field that we all inhabit. And obviously, the closer you are to those in your life, your children, your family, your beloved, your immediate community, that field is stronger, right? You know when your best friend is on the phone, or you've had that synchronicity of oh my God, I was just thinking of you, and then they show up. So that field of connection is very close, but that field of connection spreads through all consciousness, and not just humans. It spreads into the animals, and I would even posit into the trees and into the life forms around us on this planet, that we are all this one web, this one fabric of consciousness, very much like an indigenous population believes, which I also tend to believe. My earliest teachers were the indigenous population, were the North and South American shamans of this history of life as one bubble of being, and that we are but one expression within it, understanding this world as the source through us enjoying the creation. And I really like that concept. And there's been a lot of scientific research that has come out now to discuss the idea of how our thoughts influence the matter. If you're observing the phenomenon changes. So even that scientific inquiry is in and itself a bit skewed, because the precepts and the thoughts of the scientist, of the observer, change the nature of the outcome. That is very exciting, because it also lends that idea that we get to influence and change that outcome around us that we desire. So for that idea of the law of manifestation and of trying to create the things that you want in your world, sometimes we can get very frustrated because it doesn't happen fast enough. We sort of say Lord, I'll be a really good person if you just give me this. And so that's that sense of supplication to some bigger deity that's got power over you. And I don't believe it works that way. I believe that as we are created in that image of the deity, of that image of the divine, we are the spark of the divine, just as that spark is also in the very fabric of the molecules of the stones around us. So when we invest ourselves in that experience of being and living the divine, we have that opportunity to really create from a very different place, not just from our history, but from our present. Because otherwise we're generating this history of who we used to know ourselves to be, of those children places, or those painful places, or those traumas that we've experienced, and we drag that into this moment. So we keep experiencing that trauma and that drama over and over and over again. And yet, you are who you are as a result of what you've learned from going through those damaging and challenging situations. But that does not mean you have to carry it forward into your present and keep generating it to come. So the idea that our future can be shaped by our present, I feel, is very powerful, and one that I seek to support with your practice as well. So that's why I create the classes that I create, or the meditations that I create, because I want to help that generation of this new conversation of creating a present moment that is empowered the way you want to experience it. Because quite honestly, you can't be where you are other than where you are. If you show me by location, I'll give you $1 million, because it doesn't exist. We cannot be there unless we are in an altered state and that door of perception has shifted, where there's a part of your consciousness that can go into that other timeline. And that does happen. We do that in hypnotherapy. We have that happen with ayahuasca or other doors of perception with medicinal plant energies that take us into those other realms of other existences. And that does occur. But that's a non-corporeal experience. That's a non-local experience. That's an experience kind of like a lucid dream, where we emerge out of the confines of the meat of our body and experience ourselves in these alternate realms where there is information, there is richness. Now, I would like to teach you to continue to know that you can create that altered state without having to go through the gateway of, magic mushrooms. You can, but you don't need to. You don't need to have the side effects in the body, where you can actually cause yourself to shift your perception in such a way that the realm that already exists, that you tap into, becomes friendly to you. So that you can use it for automatic writing, you can use it for problem solving, you can use it in the moment of challenge with your spouse or with your creative endeavor. So I'm going to posit that those realms already exist. That realm where you are happy and healthy and satisfied and in a place of joy already exists, which is why you can go there in your dream state, which is why you already feel its lack right now. You feel the lack because you know it exists. When children are first born, they first, pop into this emergence. They already come with this blueprint of being. They already come with this awareness of who they are and where they've come from. And in fact, some children are remembering of the womb and they carry it forward into adulthood. I've had the great honor of meeting several adults in this lifetime who remember from conception, which means that it's not the brain that is generating the concept of the I. That the I already exists. The brain maybe is this transmitter of experience throughout this body to help the I within to receive information from this world. And in fact, that's the class that I'm going to be teaching here at SAND, which is this sense of sensual spirituality. Not just in the term of sensuality, although that's very profound, but in that sense of having that sensorial experience, which is indeed our awareness of spirituality within. That when we allow ourselves to embody this feeling of the divine within our being, suddenly something changes. When we begin to inhabit the divine God, goddess, female, all that is, we have a different perception of our responsibility to this world, our responsibility to the vehicle that we live in. You can't corrupt this vehicle if it is part of the divine, if it is the perception vehicle that allows you to experience the divine in all of its capacity around you, in other people, in challenge, in holding your child. So all of those sensual perceptions that we experience within our being are replicable. You can have that experience over and over and over again. You can do it through pranayama or breathing practices. You can do it with your meditation practice. You can do it with your physical asana yoga practice. You can do it with your writing. You can do it in a variety of ways. You can actually change your perceptions to feel yourself as this creatrix, this matrix of creation that is invested within the world around it intimately and is causing a shift within the hearts, the minds, the experience, that mental level, that consciousness level that exists all around us, that we are a part of whether we want to believe it or not. Gravity works upon you whether you believe it or not. The field works upon you whether you believe it or not. It doesn't matter your worldview or your culture or your religious background or your sexual orientation, you are still a member of the collective. Even if you're a hermit living in the woods, you are a member of the collective of the forest in which you reside. And so this is the conversation that I'm asking you to join in with me. I'd like you to email me, ask me your questions, follow me in these variety of conversations so that we can together create a higher level of awareness. Because the level of awareness that you're seeking is greater than what you have right now. The tribe is going to help you to get there. Otherwise, you'd already be there. So we have a certain level of mastery of where we already are. And in order to elevate beyond it, we have to have a different mass, a different energy to help propel us to the next level. So that's the invitation. And that's why I come to these conferences, so that I can become imbued with this other consciousness, this higher level of conversation from thinkers from all over the world that inspire me, and then generate those things I'm already receiving and downloading through my practice that I then get to share with you. This is an active conversation, it is an open conversation, and it's a dialogue that I invite you to dive into deeply. So thank you for joining us here this summer in Science and Non-Duality Conference, and I look forward to hearing your comments, your feedback, and your response. It is my honor to be your teacher. Many, many blessings, and Sat Nam.